Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Tasmania's 3 key marginal seats have seen unprecedented activity from politicians of all persuasions today as the election battle heats up. The controversy over Jessica Whelan's alleged comments has overshadowed the Prime Minister's visit to Tasmania. There was little in the way of local promises, and what was meant to be a simple walk through AgFest quickly turned into a race to escape questions.
In the hustle and bustle of AgFest, the Prime Minister meets his #1 fan.
3 cheers for Tasmania, mate. The #1 state in Australia.
Scott Morrison's latest trip to the Apple Isle started off in an orchard, spruiking a $60 million boost to help small and medium businesses take a bite out of the export market.
Very nice. Great casual.
There was also $3.5 million for farmer safety and a plan to help the nation's agriculture sector reach $1 billion output by 2030. A pitch he had no arguments with at Tassie's Big Field Day.
Hey guys, good morning, Mr. Well done on the organisation. Yeah, no, fantastic job.
Welcome to AgFest.
But there was some rain on the Prime Minister's parade. Lions Liberal candidate Jessica Whelan is facing allegations she made racist comments online, claims she has denied. In the avenues of AgFest, the political mud seemed too much for the candidate, whisked away without taking questions. All of it ammunition for state Labor.
Will you now, in this House, condemn Ms Whelan's comments?
Where it happens, of course, it is appropriate for the necessary action to deal with it to occur. And as I've said before repeatedly, I would expect that to occur in this case.
The federal Liberal leader's Tassie visit, not your typical pork barrelling exercise. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
While the Liberal Party was dealing with the fallout of the scandal, federal Labor was lending its support to a proposed wind farm, which doubles as a hydrogen exporter. The huge 500 turbine project is tipped to create thousands of jobs during construction.
Today's colour palette of political parties in the state included a splash of red when Bill Shorten puffed up his commitment to renewable energy by plunging $5 million into the Renewable Futures scheme, headlined by the Whaleback Ridge wind farm, a 500 turbine mega project proposed for the state's west coast.
This country can't keep going along as we are without taking real action on climate change.
The new proposal is being driven by the directors of the Granville Harbour wind farm. Whaleback Ridge would be enormous in comparison, capable of generating 1,500 megawatts of electricity compared with 112 megawatts at Granville Harbour. A hydrogen production facility also forms part of the vision.
The northwest of Tasmania has some of the best wind energy resources on the face of the planet and will benefit so greatly from Labor's ambitious 50% renewable energy target.
Labor also announced funding for 10,000 apprenticeship places
to train our budding electricians of the future into renewable energy.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
The minor parties have also set their sights on Tasmania today. Pauline Hanson arrived late this afternoon, facing questions over her Port Arthur comments. And Clive Palmer has been flying across the state, promising tax relief for Tasmanians.
A frantic day of election campaigning in Tasmania, receiving an extra arrival. Billionaire Clive Palmer touching down in Hobart in a private jet, here to make his pitch to local voters.
We think, the United Australia Party, that we have to draw a line in the sand and do something positive for the state to encourage people to bring enterprise here and so that Tasmanians can be all that they could be.
His centrepiece for Tasmania, declaring the state a special economic zone. Businesses and individuals would receive a rebate of 20% of their taxes. A bold policy, he says, would be cost neutral in 5 years. But the cost until then, not something he could answer.
We project it as cost neutral, right? And like any modelling, that's made of it. I haven't got with me those costs, I can get them to you, but that's made up of a number of assumptions, right?
His defector, Jackie Lambie, joining the herds of politicians campaigning at AgFest. She's now running her own party with candidates for the Senate.
For me, I think it's probably easier this time around, simply because everybody knows in Tasmania who Jackie Lambie is. So just my profile alone is quite large out there, but whether or not, once again, that converts to votes is another thing.
With 6 Tasmanian Senate seats up for grabs, political analyst Richard Herr is backing the chances of the major parties. He says while the final 2 positions will be a tight race, they'll likely go to the Liberals, Labor or the Greens.
Yeah, there's a lot to play for, but at this stage it doesn't look like the minor parties are looking really to hold their own in Tasmania. Their preferences will be critical, and that's why we have all of this debate as to who's dealing deals with whom.
One Nation is another of the minor parties looking to take Tasmanian Senate spots. But as Pauline Hanson arrived in Launceston to campaign this afternoon, she faced fallout from her comments questioning the Port Arthur massacre.
So I never said anything that it was a conspiracy, and that's been blown completely out of proportion by the media, and it is definitely not a conspiracy.
Michael Breen, 7 Tasmania News.
Government plans to guarantee jail time for serious child sex offenders are dead in the water tonight after Sue Hickey sided with opposition parties to block the bill. It's prompted a wave of criticism from survivors of abuse, while others are applauding the Speaker for throwing out what they call a bad law.
Just 2 days ago, the government thought it had the numbers.
I believe that the Speaker is fully supportive of this move.
But 2 days is now a long time in Tasmanian politics.
But it is braver and truer to my own conscience to not support this bill.
The Liberal Party has taken mandatory minimum sentences for serious child sex offenders to 2 elections. But last night, Sue Hickey had a change of heart.
It was in the last dying hours of conversation that I actually thought, no, I've now got enough evidence to show that if I supported this legislation, it would not be right.
Her reasons mirroring those of the Australian Lawyers Alliance, who say mandatory sentences don't work.
All that we can do is be grateful that there are some politicians who have the courage of their convictions to stop a bad law.
But survivors of childhood sexual abuse are outraged, saying they won't give up the fight. It's not the first time the government's bill has been defeated. Last time it was scuttled by the Legislative Council.
We can't understand why there is so much opposition to minimum mandatory sentencing. It is just something that is beyond comprehension.
The government was keeping a low profile today, declining requests for interview. But in a statement issued late last night, the Premier said he's disappointed in Sue Hickey's decision to vote against the legislation.
It's quite clear now that they no longer have a majority. Will Hodgman made repeated claims before the last state election that he would not govern in minority. If he's true to his word, then the only option for the Premier is for him to resign.
How would you describe your relationship with your Liberal colleagues in Parliament at the moment?
Professional.
Andrew McCarthy, 7 Tasmania News.
Air monitoring tests have revealed no areas of the construction site at the Royal Hobart Hospital have been contaminated with asbestos. Tradespeople returning to work this morning after walking off the job yesterday and demanding testing. The substance was discovered between the old building and the new development on April 18. Well, the Coal River Valley has once again produced some champion grapes, with company Stargazer winning the Tasmanian Vineyard of the Year. The small business is solely run by a New Zealand-born Tasmanian, running a one-woman operation.
Taking a stroll through the very vines leading to this winemaker's victory.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It was a real surprise, obviously, to receive the phone call, but it's just such a great validation of the hard work that I've put in over the last few years.
The 3-hectare vineyard in the Coal River Valley, taking out the top prize in a statewide competition, run by the Royal Agricultural Society of Tasmania.
The canopy looked really good and healthy, the fruit looked really tasty, and it did taste good. And it was a hard choice. There were many great entrants, but Sam and Stargazer came out on top.
Samantha Connew harvests the grapes and makes the award-winning wine for the business, using only her own hands.
So I'm still really, really tiny and pretty much a one-woman operation. So it's been a massive learning curve over the last 3 years, getting my head around how to actually operate a vineyard.
Originally born in New Zealand, the winemaker shifted her skills from the Hunter Valley in New South Wales to Tasmania in 2016.
the varieties that I'm passionate about, so Pinot Noir, Chardonnay and Riesling. I really think Tasmania is the only place in Australia that can do, really well with all three varieties. So yeah, perfect place for me.
The Coal River is a great place to grow grapes, just like most of the wine regions around Australia. Tasmania are a great place. We're an island, so with that ocean influence, our climate is fantastic.
Samantha will be hosting a field day on May 31st to share her tips on how to produce a winning vineyard. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
A fire has raged out of control at Ferntree overnight, destroying a collection of vehicles. The fire had been started to dispose of vegetation, but spread. It consumed 41 vehicles stored on the property and a structure containing building materials. The damage bill estimated at $50,000. Authorities are urging people to stay with and monitor any fires they light and keep an adequate brake around them. It could be Tasmania's muddiest festival, but that doesn't stop thousands from making their way to Quercus Park. Umbrellas, boots and a good raincoat were once again a must at this year's AgFest.
Tasmania's biggest field day always lives up to its reputation, both in size and in weather.
You're just wondering what you like about AgFest.
Well, I don't know. I know it's a bugger of a day.
Even with dark clouds rolling in, it wasn't hard to get hyped up.
I love it. It's really fun. We get a lot of sugar.
For farmers, AgFest is like being in a candy store. Rows and rows of the latest farming toys. Sheepdogs were also put to the test. And if tractors weren't your thing, there was always craft. You could even rock climb your way above the mud.
We'll try to cater for everyone, whether it be machineries, tractors, cars, homewares. The list is endless.
Although not everyone got the memo about AgFest fashion.
Can't help but notice that you're both kind of wearing your Sunday best.
A little bit.
Wish you brought a raincoat.
We've got an umbrella.
We feel a bit out of place, but...
At least 65,000 people are expected through the gates. AgFest continues until Saturday. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
In the TSL, Launceston could finally welcome back skipper Jay Blackberry to the senior side if he proves he's fit to play at training tonight. It'll bring some much needed experience to the Blues, who have blooded 8 debutants so far this season. There's been plenty of new faces at Windsor Park this season, but it's an old one which will help the side stand taller. Captain Jay Blackberry is on the verge of making his long-awaited return to the senior squad following a ruptured ACL which ruled him out for a year.
We won't rush him. We'll have our final training run tonight and the medical team will make the call on where he plays.
Blackberry played in the Mercury Cup side on the weekend and the signs are promising.
I think it gives everyone confidence to see, the way he played his first game back last week. I mean, we all got there nice and early and watched the game, and you got to remember he's a class player. He's probably in the top 5 players in the competition.
Kieran Lovell's also in that esteemed league. The Blues will try to contain the former Hawk turned Kingborough Tiger this weekend when the two sides face off at Windsor Park.
The boys love having him here. He loves being back home, so yeah, hopefully his form puts him on the radar over the course of the year as well, and he can get that chance to get back in the system, which I think is a realistic thing for him.
While North Hobart's focal point, Craig Garland, is still missing in action, he will line up for Dosa in Old Scholars this week.
He's gone back to play at a lower level to see if he can get through, and then, as I said, we'll sit down next week and we'll work out a plan from there.
The Demons face Clarence at Blunston Arena on Saturday. The heavens opened and some drivers were thunderstruck on Targa Tasmania's wet and wild roads. Multiple drivers came unstuck, including Hobart pace setter Michael Pritchard, with Paul Stokel surviving to become the new leader after day 4. We were warned it would be wet, but that didn't stop drivers from going pedal to the metal in their expensive machines. Michael Pritchard came into today's racing from Sathana to Strawn in second place, but his Porsche GT3 was turning heads for the wrong reasons when it slammed into a barrier south of Ulverston. At least he could blame the weather. Who knows what happened to Matt Close? Sacrificing his 44-second lead after an electrical glitch, which crippled revealed his transmission and his position as outright leader. Paul Stokel was all too happy to take his place. The Lotus driver says he also had electrical problems, but he still managed to make it down to the west with a comfortable 57-second buffer over close. Nissan driver Angus Kennard is in third. Day 5 tomorrow sees drivers tackle the longest stage of the event at Mount Arrowsmith. They'll then wind up in Hobart. Don't forget the Targa Fest tomorrow night on Hobart's waterfront. It's from 6 until 9 o'clock at Mac 2.
Good evening. St Helens topped the list today with 23 degrees. Hobart and Devonport 17, Launceston 19 and Burnie 16. Flinders Island and Grove 22, Friendly Beaches 21, King Island and Strawn 19, Lowhead 18, Ouse 15 and Lyreweenie 13. The best rainfall overnight was 54 millimetres at Smithton, while today 17 millimetres the best fall at Lake Wendy. Now that's the cloud bringing that rain streaming right across the state today. Now that's all joined up to the region above us, back up over Central Australia, that frontal band with more spiralling around a low which is sitting over the Bight. Tomorrow the cold front moves away to our east but still affecting the mainland. A low slides to our southwest with a high developing to the west of that. The winds north to northwesterly at 10 to 20 knots, tending west northwesterly and increasing to 15 to 25 knots and even to 30 knots over the west. So we do have a strong wind warning in the west for waters between Southeast Cape and Stanley, a small craft wind alert for the southwest lakes. Partly cloudy in Hobart for Friday, 19 the top, 18 for Huonville with a possible shower, Campania cloudy and 19 degrees. Launceston, morning rain and 18, 17 the top for Devonport with a shower or two, Georgetown similar but 16 degrees. Burnie tomorrow reaching 17 with a shower or two, maybe some heavy falls over Strawn, 16 the maximum, a shower for Wynyard and 17. And for St Helens 18 degrees, early rain, then mostly sunny, not getting much of that rain. Swansea, maybe some rain at times early in the day, 20 the top and 19 for Port Arthur. Now on Saturday, showers mainly over the north and west before contracting to the southwest later. Fine on Sunday apart from showers over the south and east coasts, and on Monday a possible shower over the east, south and west coasts, otherwise fine. Sunny and 28 degrees in Perth, showers for Adelaide, rain for Canberra and Sydney, and showers as well for Brisbane and Darwin. Cloudy and 16 in Hobart, 16 in Launceston, Devonport 16 as well. And Joe at Agfest today I met a farmer who solved a problem at home. For a Sunday night roast, there's 3 in the family and they could only have 2 chicken legs. So he bred a chicken with 3 legs. Unbelievable. He's got heaps of them. They actually run at about 120 kilometres.
Exactly. Thank you very much to our producer. All right, that's all from the news team for now. Thanks for your company. Bye-bye.